Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel, Coops Fitness. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and give me a follow right away. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to basically go through a basic beginner weightlifting split routine. Now I know that generally beginners generally do not or will not split it up quite like this right away, especially if they're a very beginner whose goal is just to get started and get generally fit, right? But I'm talking about the people, particularly the young men and the boys in their teenage years who want to start learning the fundamentals and the principles of bodybuilding, or if they just want to learn how to get more serious about putting on some muscle, learning hypertrophy training, which is an increase in muscle size, or just learning how to get serious about getting stronger and learning how to apply overload principles and that sort of thing. So in this video, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth about the number one training split, the most popular push-pull legs. I know in the video I did a little while back, it was more catered towards beginners who went on a full body plan, right? A full body plan, or split it up, upper body, lower body, whatever, right? So there's different types of beginners, obviously, because each person has a different goal. Some people want to just learn the basic movements and get generally more active, and that's totally okay. Go on like an upper body, lower body plan, or just go on a full body plan 3 days a week to start off. That's pretty good. But for this video, what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit more emphasis on the people who want to start leveling up and getting more serious into either bodybuilding, or if they just want to get their strength up in general. This is a much better way to start incorporating that, simply just because it really breaks up the different types of muscle groups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each one here. And so generally, people split it up, push-pull legs, right? So on push day, that's an upper body push. Training session, you're training all push muscles, your chest, your upper chest, your front delts, you know, doing all the lateral raises, lots of those, lots of triceps, right? Tons of those. So I'm just going to take you through what each typical day would sort of look like. So typically, most people on day one start off by push. So that would be things like any kind of bench press, any kind of shoulder press, or any kind of chest press, right? So we've got chest presses. Now, we've also got things like overhead presses. And those are going to work your shoulders, not your chest, because overhead. So normally you would start off your first multi-joint movement, your first compound exercise or multi-joint exercise, because you want to train the big muscle groups first, right? You would start off that exercise at the start of your program with either a chest press or shoulder press. You never really start an upper push day with anything else. It's always going to be either some sort of chest press or some sort of shoulder press, whether it be the regular barbell bench press or the military shoulder press or dumbbell chest press or incline press, whatever, just any kind of press. That's going to be the key. If you're training a push day, you must start out with some kind of press. If you're not, you're probably doing something wrong, because chances are other supporting exercises, like an exercise you can do next, like flies, chest flies, those are going to be a great exercise to do after your presses, simply just because they concentrate more on the deeper fibers and the inner part of your chest, the middle sternal part, rather than the whole. You really get that squeeze contraction, and yeah, you're getting more of that whole chest for sure, because it isolates the chest. However, it's going to really emphasize on that middle part and those inner kind of fibers. So you want to do that exercise after your presses, right? So the chest flies, yeah, I would highly recommend that. Another exercise that you could do is dips. Now that's a great substitute for the bench press, right? Because if you struggle on the bench press, you can just practice parallel bar dips on the bars. Or if you're just a very beginner and you can't do that, a really, really good regression to that or a modification would be bench dips, where you just put your hands on a bench and you just have your knees bent, feet flat on the floor, hands on the bench behind you, and you just do this movement, right? So that's a really, really good thing to incorporate. And then, yeah, so, shoulder presses, chest presses, flies, dips, things like that. Lateral raises, I'm going to put that here. And the reason why lateral raises are so important, even though they're not a multi-joint exercise, is because they're really going to target that medial head, right? Giving you that 3D look. You're not targeting your front head. You're not isolating your back posterior head either. It's the middle head of the shoulder, the medial head of the deltoid. You want to really isolate that head for aesthetics and hypertrophy. That is the most important head of the delt you want to target. And the reason why that is because that's the head, after training lateral raises, that's going to give you more of that pump, that 3D look. It's going to help give you wider definition in your upper torso. So that is definitely one of the most important movements that you must incorporate into your routine. So it's always lateral raises. Doing a push day, it's going to be always some sort of chest press and maybe shoulder press too, depending on how much you're focusing shoulders. But generally, it's always going to be lateral raises. And of course, because of that, what do you think we're going to do next? We're going to balance it out with bent over dumbbell flies, right? Because you're going to get front delts with chest presses and incline presses and shoulder presses. You're going to get medial head of the delts by doing lateral raises. Now we got to hit the posterior head. So now we got to either do the bent over dumbbell flies, or something else you could do is face pulls. And you can do that with a band or cable. So it's really important to do something to hit that posterior head. So we got posterior head. So we got that. And then what you're going to do is from there, it's basically on to triceps. So with triceps, it's really important to know which exercises will hit which heads. It's very easy to just think that you can get away doing any tricep exercise because a tricep exercise is a tricep exercise, right? Well, yes and no, but you have to understand that certain exercises will hit different heads. So if you're doing your typical tricep push downs or kickbacks or dips, those are all great for hitting, of course, the medial and lateral heads. But if you want to hit the long head, the biggest head, which will really give you that mass, what you really need to concentrate on is doing a lot of overhead movements. It could be the rope forward push. It could be skull crushers done overhead, lying on a bench, are going to hit more long head. And if you do them only to your forehead or shoulders and you press up from a bench and do lying tricep extensions that way, you'll hit more medial head. But generally you want to aim for hitting behind your head, because going behind your head is going to hit more long head of the triceps, and that's what you want. So that's one of the better exercise for the long head of your triceps. And every other tricep exercise, because they're isolation exercises, are going to hit more medial and lateral head. But of course it depends on the angle and it depends on the attachment you use for machines. Like some attachments require different grips, so therefore they're going to hit different heads. But overall, you got to have a balance in that. So include some sort of variation of tricep pushdowns and dips for long head, kickbacks for medial and lateral head. Make sure you're including some sort of combination with that, along with your lying tricep extensions, so skull crushers in other words, that are going to work your medial head, lateral head, and long head, depending on what angle. If you hit them this way, they'll actually hit all three, but more long head because you're extending all the way back. But just remember, if you go only to your forehead, or if you go only to your shoulders, that'll take all that emphasis off of the long head, and it'll focus on only medial and lateral head. Okay, so with this routine, you would perform it like every Monday or Wednesday or whatever your push day falls on. And then of course you would have your pull routine. So that would be like if you were doing like pull-ups and lat pull downs, you're working your back and biceps, right? So that could be something like pull-ups, could be something like lat pull down. It could be the bent over row. And there's lots of different combinations and variations that you can do with these, right? It doesn't really matter too much. It's not limited to what you can and cannot do. So you want to include some sort of lat variation. I would recommend for beginners the lat pull down, because your pull-up game is probably not going to be very good at first. You need to focus on building that strength up. So I'd focus on, once you can get up to 10 to 12 reps with relatively moderately heavy weight on the pull downs, you can start adding pull-ups into your routine. That's a really good way to get going. Also, any kind of bent over row for your lats and upper back. Shrugs, because shrugs are going to work your traps. Now they're not only beside the neck and shoulder, they're not only in between the delt and the neck, but they also actually run all the way down. So a lot of people think when they think of traps, they only think of this wedge here. But it's actually the entire muscle group that runs down past your spine, right? It actually goes all the way to your mid-back. So technically, it's actually a back muscle. And a lot of people making the mistake of training it on shoulder day, but it actually makes sense to train your traps on back day because of how far down your back they run, right? They are technically considered a back muscle, and they are, because they are a pull movement. With the mechanics of the exercise, you're technically using biceps a little bit and forearms, lots of forearms with grip, because you're pulling, right? So it would make sense to train shrugs on back and biceps day because they're a pull exercise, right? So we've got shrugs, and of course we isolate that with any kind of bicep curl variation. It could be a dumbbell curl, it can be a barbell curl. There's no real exercise variation that you have to incorporate for beginners, right? You can change the weight either way. Of course, each has their own benefits and everything, but it really doesn't matter. You can do light barbell curls, you can do heavy dumbbell curls, you can do light dumbbell curls and heavy barbell curls, right? People say barbell curls are better for going heavy, but either way you have the option. That's the truth, right? And then of course you can do the different variations like hammer curls to hit a little bit more of that brachial muscle and the forearms. And there you go, you basically have that pull routine. It's all about back and biceps. Pull downs and pull-ups and bent over barbell rows are going to hit more lats and a little bit middle back. T-bar rows and cable rows are going to hit. They're going to also hit the lats, but they're also going to hit that middle back, like those rhomboids and posterior deltoids more. So that's really important. Again, get those shrugs in. Isolate those biceps with all those curls, right? Really important to balance it all out. Never skip isolation exercises because they're synergists. They're supporting muscles that are going to help you perform your big lifts, okay? So now, finally, we're on to the legs, okay? So, you've done your upper body. Let's say you have a 3-day routine, where you train push on Monday, then you recover, then you pull on Wednesday, you recover on Thursday, and then maybe on Friday, that's where your lower body day comes in. So with your legs, you have 2 options for your big lift, your first multi-joint exercise. You can either do squat or deadlift. Now, You can also do deadlift on back days too. If you prefer deadlift over bent over barbell row, you can actually deadlift on back day and you'll get the same benefits, and I'll explain why. So with your deadlift, it's actually not just a lower body movement. It works the whole posterior chain. So it works your whole rear of your body, right? It's going to work your hamstrings, little bit of quads, but mostly hamstrings and glutes. It's going to work your erector spinae muscles that run along the side of the low back that help support you so your back doesn't snap. It's going to work your lats when you pull at the top. A lot of people miss this. A lot of people skip this, neglecting it, thinking it's less important because it's known as a leg exercise. But it's actually just as much of a back exercise because you squeeze, you retract your shoulder blades together. Imagine like you're snapping the bar with your hips. So you're going to retract, use your lats, and it's going to work your traps, right? Because of you're holding the bar with your grip, your forearms, your biceps, your core, your quads, glutes, hamstrings, just everything. Deadlifts are good for everything, right? You can incorporate them on back or leg day. Now, obviously, with squats, tons of variations for that. Doesn't really end, of course, right? There's the goblet squat. There's the body weight squat if you're a beginner. There's the front barbell squat, the back barbell squat. There's also lunges that are the same mechanics. They're going to work your quads. And then you can progress them to Bulgarian split squats where you raise the feet. And then there's the machines that are supporting exercises that will help you with all those. So those could be leg presses. Those could be leg extensions. Those could be hamstring curls, right? Anything that's going to help you strengthen the isolate the muscles, which will help you perform the big lift long term by strengthening those muscles. So hamstring curls, lunges, leg presses, things like that, right? And then you basically got your whole lower body routine. And there you go. That basically covers it for your typical push-pull legs routine. So, just to run through it one more time, you got your push day, all your chest presses and shoulder presses, lateral raises, dips, flies, and all your tricep isolation exercises. You would normally pick only a few out of that entire list. Your whole workout's not going to be involving everything, right? Because that's just too much volume, and you're not going to be able to train as hard if you do it like that, because your body needs more energy to do all that work. It's better to train with fewer exercises but go all out than to train all exercises but give 50%, So then you got pull day, right? You got your beginner pull-ups or lat pull-down, right? Some sort of pull-up variation, or just straight to lat pull-downs or any kind of row. It's great for beginners who need to develop that lat and upper back strength, right? Before moving on to body weight full pull-ups, right? Really important. Start with the foundations, get those muscles strong. Then once you're ready, you can just start knocking out solid pull-ups, right? You got all your bent over row variations, shrugs, all your bicep curls, and then of course legs. So all your squats, your deadlifts, pick one, because their squats and deadlifts are probably your biggest movements of the whole body, right? If you're squatting, that's kind of involving your whole body because you have to lift the weight with your whole body. So that's a big movement, right? So is the deadlift. So I wouldn't pair those in the same workout. If you want to include both, I would do deadlift on back day and squat on leg day. Or if you wanted to include both on lower body day, I would alternate, right? I would do squat one week and then deadlift next week, but never include both in the same workout because that's going to be too much, fatiguing you too quickly. Then of course you got your lunges, your isolation movements, so your machines that are going to help you strengthen the muscles involved in each big exercise, right? So yeah, there you go. Hope you liked this video. Let me know in the comments section what you think. Don't forget to leave a like and make sure you smash that follow button. See you next time.